Hello and welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. If somebody wouldn't mind sending a message in the chat box, just to be sure we're broadcasting, super appreciate it. We have the privilege of having our friends from Boma, and I've become good friends with Lara. Hope she agrees. Thank you, Stephen and Kayla and Stefan, who is on the call here. We've got to know Boma quite a bit since their launch. And I'm proud to say that I was at their initial launch in Paris, I guess July, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? How long ago was it? So really intimately familiar with what they're doing, and really pleased to have them here with us today. And thank you all for joining in and spending your afternoon with us. We have an hour and we have got some interesting stuff to talk about. The first thing I'm going to do is a little bit of Zoom housekeeping. As you know, we're recording this for the record. We can't see or hear you, but you are so welcome, and we encourage you to ask questions throughout, and we'll get to them in the chat box or the Q&A, and please don't be shy, fire away. Our mission here today is to explain to you in detail what Boma is doing for the world, and also the intention is to raise awareness about their current raise, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So please, again, thank you for being here, and pay close attention, because you don't want to miss any of this. And we totally welcome and encourage questions in the chat box in the Q&A. And before I make introductions, we're going to go ahead and play a quick video for you. So turn on the sound, and here we go.
To navigate our highly uncertain world, we need a new kind of conversation. We are facing a dramatically changing future. It's not just technology, social change, political change, climate change, changes in our structures and economic systems. How can anyone keep up? How can our organizations and institutions adapt and thrive in a future that looks nothing like the past? How can we thrive in this future? How can we all come together to impact the world for good? Boma is a global network of local partners, offering transformational learning experiences for leaders and change makers of today and tomorrow, so that in a world of dramatic and continuous change, we can be more intentional and intelligent about the future.
Awesome, thank you for that. So we have two objectives here today. The primary one is to make an awareness to you folks about the opportunities as an investor with Boma and in Boma. I'm pleased to report that Boma is raising $5 million, has successfully raised 1.6 million, and have been executing. They have revenue. The team is just extraordinary. I've got to know them over time. And unlike many other new businesses, relatively new businesses, they are executing well on their objective of engaging clients, and they have done so. So the first objective is to match. There's a $500,000 match. There's an existing investor that's ponied up $500,000, and if we have another $500,000, he'll write that check as well, or she, I can't remember which. So don't mean to be sexist. Sorry about that, guys. So you'll see shortly here that there's an opportunity to be an investor. And the second objective is, as a robust and interesting community that Family Office Insights is, not because it's mine, because you are robust and interesting. There's an awareness and a level of appreciation for potential customers of Boma as well. So just keep that in mind as we're going along. So with that, I'm going to introduce Lara, my friend, and she's going to chat about what Boma is all about. Lara?
Thank you, Arthur. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. And without much more ado, I think we'll jump into the presentation. I'm Lara Stein. I'm joined here today. We have 3 additional founding partners at Boma, and I'm joined here today by 2 of my 3 founding partners, Stefan Balzer and Kyla Colbin. Stefan, do you want to just say a quick hi, and Kyla?
Yeah, of course. I hope you can all see me. Welcome, everybody. I remember the last time we were sitting in your beautiful location in New York, and I'm happy that we can come back today.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kyla. Good to see you.
So Stefan and Kyla, we have an extraordinary team. Stefan and Kyla are both serial entrepreneurs. Kyla also exited a professional training company. She helped me build TEDx in New Zealand and brought Singularity University to both New Zealand and Australia when I was running the expansion. And Stefan is an entrepreneur as well, has some successful exits. And he also oversaw a lot of the TEDx events in Germany and brought Singularity to Germany. The partner, Michel, is head of Boma France. And he is an engineer by training and has a long history in startups and the innovation ecosystem in France. And so I'm Lara Stein, as I said. My background is I started off my career in the for-profit world. I ran a division of Microsoft. I merged 3 companies to create an internet strategy roll-up that went around the world called iExcel. I guess what I'm probably best known for is about 10 years ago, I founded the TEDx community at TED. I came up with the idea, I built the framework, I built the scale, and grew it into a network of 3,000 events that happen annually around the world, managed by about a team of about 12 people. As well as I built Singularity University's global expansion. Most of their training programs had just been on the campus in Palo Alto, and I was responsible for taking them out into the world and expanding them into 12 and counting different countries. My background is I come from South Africa originally. I grew up during apartheid, and I think that greatly informed my perspective on the most important thing that the world needs right now is education and leadership. And so I want to tell you a little bit more about Boma. Next slide. So I don't need to, I think we all know, and I don't need to tell all of you, we're living through incredibly complicated times. And COVID has definitely magnified all the challenges and weaknesses in our system. And it's shown us that we are more vulnerable than we ever thought and much more connected than we ever imagined. And this is the environment our leaders are having to navigate, this highly difficult and disruptive environment. And it's not only COVID, as you saw in that video, it's climate change, it's exponential tech that's speeding up more and more, it's geopolitical, it's social change. And so this is the reality of where leadership finds themselves. And 79% of CEOs are seeking to reevaluate their purpose as a result of COVID right now. $1 trillion in costs are predicted to arise from inaction to climate change in the top Fortune 500 companies. And over 50% of the world economy will be really impacted by automation in the next few years. And so what is really clear is we need new leaders and we need a different kind of leadership. Next slide. So what is Boma? Boma is an early stage disruptive corporate training and event network gathering the world's best minds to deliver content to customers through a scalable and decentralized platform. Boma is disrupting the corporate training market. And we're doing this through a series of products, including leadership programs, customized corporate training, workshops, and we have clubs around the world for executives. We also have events, both digital and when the world goes back to normal, in-person events. And we are bringing together for these programs the world's best minds. In order to be the front runner in leadership training, we really need the thought leadership of cutting edge experts around the world. And because we've all been in this space for the last 15 and so years, really identifying the best people who think the best about change on the planet, this is the network and the talent that we're bringing to bear on Boma. And finally, we're building the scalable, decentralized platform. Boma's world-class content is going to be delivered through these facilitators. What's exciting about this model, it allows us to scale very easily around the world. as well as we're going to have this large library of content. And as we bring new experts into the network, it's very easy to expand our network for both the leadership and the experts and our country partners. Next slide, please. So really, what makes Boma different? There are a few things that make Boma different. Firstly, I think we'll all agree that traditional training is often limited by subject matter and geography. Most of us have gone through some kind of training, and often it's quite dry, it's poorly designed, it's often outdated, it's not updated regularly. It tends to be binary focused, it's either hard skills or soft skills, and it's not always localized in a really intentional way for the local market. It doesn't really customize for that local market. So this is what Boma is doing differently. As I said, we have amazing access to incredible talent pool, because of our backgrounds through TED and Singularity and other bespoke programs my partners have launched. Having gone through the TED rigor, we have a profound focus on experience design. And so we're really bringing a different mindset to how we are going to design this training in a way that we like to say at Boma, to make the hairs stand up on the back of your neck, like your employees will love to go through this training. Because of our access to our experts, we are able to update our content regularly. So everything will be really current. And we most importantly have this sort of holistic approach around it's not just hard skills or soft skills, but it's both internalities and externalities. We call this what you need to know and who you need to be. And so we're working at the fusion of these two things. And then finally, we are able, because of the way we're setting up our distributed country partner model, to really make this deeply localized. We're designing it in a way that our country partners really can plug in what they need to in order to make it relevant in their local market. Thank you. Next slide. So as I said, this is a market ripe for disruption. 90% of CEOs say that great different corporate training would be a game changer. Just 4% of CEOs are seeing any ROI from their training. And so we really at Boma are looking to really shift the whole training space. Next slide. So as I said, our main objective of Boma is to create transformative learning experiences for smart, purposeful leaders. And we really believe that the future doesn't happen to us, but it's created by us. Next slide. And so what's the customer value proposition? Customers receive access to these very forward-looking ideas and insights from some of the world's best experts around the world on world-class subject matter. Examples are things like Brene Brown's training on, how do you become a more compassionate leader? And Boma also equips our customers with the tools that are needed in order to take this learning right through their organization. On the right of the slide, you can see just a small smattering of some of our modules. But now I'm going to hand it over to my partner, Kyla, who's going to talk to you a little bit about our approach to curriculum.
Thanks so much, Lara. Can I have the next slide, please? So as Lara mentioned, our approach is to sit at the nexus of what you need to know and who you need to be. And what we mean by that, the what you need to know is all the external stuff. As Lara mentioned in the beginning, as we're all aware, we're facing unprecedented challenges as a world, not only COVID and the pandemic, but also climate change, political change, economic change, social change, all of these challenges that are requiring a kind of skill set from our leaders that is not the same as what the training of yesterday was able to produce. That's the what you need to know side. But then there's a question of how do we need to show up as leaders in the face of all of that disruption? And that's the who you need to be side. And as Lara mentioned, as far as we can tell, there is no one who is sitting at the nexus of both, tackling both the external context in which we're operating and the internal fortitude that we need as leaders to actively address it. Next slide, please. So as Lara mentioned, we're working with an extraordinary range of faculty, and our approach is to scale by working with our faculty to be able to leverage their wisdom and insight across our global network, to be able to effectively scale these brilliant human beings and their ideas. So our faculty, we've got a few different characteristics for our faculty. The first thing is that they're all excellent at what they do. We work with people who are world class and who would be comfortable on any stage in front of any crowd with any audience. The second thing is they have a unique viewpoint. Their work pushes people in new directions. We're not doing same old, same old. The third characteristic of our faculty is that they have material that is convertible to curriculum and teachable. So we're not looking for motivational speakers here. We're looking for people who can build a piece of curriculum with us, build a module with us, such that we can upskill our global network of facilitators, and they can then offer that content locally. And finally, our faculty are aligned to the Boma principles. We have 7 Boma principles, but they include things like we embrace complexity, we question dogma, we're robust and credible, etc. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, in this competitive landscape, there are plenty of players who sit on the what you need to know side and plenty of players who sit on the who you need to be side, and not really any that we can find who bridge the two. So folks like MIT, Singularity University, Institute for the Future sitting on the what you need to know side, Dale Carnegie, School of Life, Brene Brown sitting on the who you need to be side, not many looking at how those two things intersect. Next slide, please. So this is a little bit different. What we're talking about here is the strategic landscape in terms of business model, how we offer what we offer, how we scale it, where we sit in terms of price point. And so there are organizations that are doing exclusively self-serve online training, folks like Coursera, Masterclass, edX, et cetera. And that business model is a high volume, low price point business model that is self-serve and digital only. And then we've got other folks who are low volume, high cost, so digital or physical delivered, but you need direct access to the expert, so much harder to scale. Not many people get access to the Harvard Business School experience. Not many people get access to the INSEAD experience. And Boma's sweet spot sits in the middle. So we're a medium cost digital, we have a digital platform. We can deliver digitally or physically, but the critical thing is we're facilitator led. And so as a result, we command a higher price point than the online only folks, but we can scale in a way that the low volume, high cost folks cannot scale. Next slide. So speaking of scaling, we have grown and are continuing to grow a global network of country partners. So we are currently in 9 countries. We're in France, Germany, Brazil, Chile, US, China, India, New Zealand. And we are looking to add our next round of target countries. That's one of the things that this capital raise will support us to do, is to expand that global network. Next slide, please. So we have a whole bunch of clients that we have worked with in the past, that we continue to work with. And all of us who are part of the Boma network bring an index of clients and reputation and previous history with some really extraordinary companies that we've been able to prove out our model with. Next slide. Speaking of proving out our model, we've got some people who are very happy with us. Anna Maria Carl from Daimler was kind enough to give us a lovely quote about the way that we work. We also conduct robust evaluation of our trainings constantly. And to do this, we use what's known as the Kirkpatrick model. So we measure not only how well people enjoyed a training, whether they learned what they were meant to learn, but we follow up a month later, 3 months later. Did anything change as a result? What was the outcome of that change? And we're already, it's early days and small numbers, but we're already seeing extraordinary results from those follow-up surveys of people 3 months later. 100% of our survey respondents have seen positive change as a result of attending our program. Next slide. So our model, this is a kind of fancy slide to effectively say on the right-hand side, our model is pretty much a franchise model. Country partners join the network. They own their local Boma. So a local country partner would own Boma Chile, for example, and they pay royalties to Boma Global for the rights to use the IP, for access to our curriculum library, for their facilitators to get trained, We provide a continuously updated cutting edge curriculum. We provide sales opportunities to multinationals. So we centralize, if we're dealing with a multinational, we can centralize that across our global partners. And in exchange, our country partners pay royalties to the global network as well as training fees. And they also share their local innovations, both back with global and then with the rest of our country partners. On the left-hand side, we've got our relationship with those subject matter experts, with the faculty. And effectively what we're highlighting here is that the way that our model works for curriculum creation is that we pay faculty to develop the curriculum, to work with us to develop curriculum using their material. We do not have any clip the ticket models. And so what this works like, it's really similar to a Netflix model, where Netflix is focused much more on upfront payment and then owning the content. And we amortize that content across our entire global network of country partners and training providers. Next slide, please. Financials wise, this is a huge market, and as Lara said, really ripe for disruption. We're aiming to reach more than $500 million in network revenue within 10 years. And when we say network revenue, what we mean is the aggregate revenue across all of our country partners. We generate revenues from those license fees, as I've said, and training fees. And so in 5 years, our target is 130 million in revenue for Boma Global. Because of our network effects, our margins grow to 70 to 80% at that scale. And by the end of year 3, we are aiming to be in 30 different countries. Next slide. So as Arthur mentioned, thank you, Arthur. You're so gracious to invite us here. The opportunity, we've already raised 1.65 million. And have used that to build out the network and to build out the curriculum that we have to date, as well as building out the brand. We're aiming to be EBITDA positive in 2023. And right now we are raising up to 5 million. Arthur also mentioned this match opportunity where one of our current investors has committed to an additional 500,000 on top of their existing investment as a match to 500,000 in investment from a new investor. So with that, I will turn it back over to Lara. You're on mute, Lara.
Lara, do you want to ask answer a question now, or do you want to wait?
Yeah, why don't we do that? And we can get into the model in greater depth, obviously, as needed.
I don't know if you can see the question, but I'll read it. Steve asks, what is the difference between working with you or just reaching out to some of the faculty directly and who are already on the speaking circuit?
Do you want me to take that one?
Yeah,
cool. So thank you so much, Steve. It's such a good question. And it's one of the things that we found with some of the other organizations that we worked with was that where they kind of got tripped up is that their whole model was about elevating individual experts to kind of superstardom. And then you'd go and engage with that organization just to get access to the superstar. The main difference here is that the challenge with a superstar model is that it doesn't scale. So you absolutely can reach out to some of our experts who are on the speaking circuit and get them directly. If you have the 125K or 250K, depending on their speaker fee, to get them to come and do your thing, go for it. That is fantastic. What we're saying is we want to work with that speaker to develop curriculum that we're going to then train 500 facilitators around the world on that curriculum. And those facilitators who are employed by our country partners are the ones who are going to deliver that training in their local markets. They will customize it for their context, for their culture. And what we're doing is we are effectively scaling those speakers beyond them as an individual. So, so if you want to, if you want to go ahead and then hire that speaker, that's fine. That actually doesn't disrupt us at all. Far from it. What it does is it elevates that speaker's brand and makes our facilitator training that much more desirable. Does that make sense? Let me know if that didn't.
I can add to that. So for example, working with most of these experts, thought leaders, academics have deep bodies of work. And yes, they may have put out a book, but they don't have a team around them to take their thought leadership and productize it in the way we do at Bowmer. And so, for example, Juan Enriquez just put out, who's a fantastic human being and fantastic speaker, just put out a book on ethics, on right and wrong. That's an amazing read. But what we're doing is we want to productize it in a way that we have a whole ethics curriculum that is then delivered by our facilitators.
So one would be able to glean from the presentation so far what the difference is between Boma and other companies doing similar things, and I think it's pretty clear that what the difference is, but maybe a quick contrast of how Boma would be executing on something and how it's different, like not compare and contrast one particular thing, but what is the meaningful difference that you could just articulate quickly between a Boma engagement and an engagement of somebody similar? No one wants to take that up. Was I just not clear?
I'll take. I'm happy to take it. Yeah. So I'll tell you a little story. So I live in New Zealand. In New Zealand, we're out traveling. So I was at the airport the other day, and I was in the lounge at the airport, and there was a man and a woman sitting next to me. This is an absolute true story. I couldn't believe it was happening. And the woman says to the man, "Are you going to that blah 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 corporate training tomorrow?" Which was, there was a day of corporate training I gathered happening at their company, and they named a training provider that's a well-known corporate training provider. And the man says, "Nope, I got out of it." And the woman says, "Oh, I can't believe you got out of it. I totally should have said no to that." And he's like, "Yep, I'm way too smart to get sucked into that." And one of the things that happens with corporate training that we all know is that people know it's going to be boring. They treat it as a box checking exercise. They dread it. And it's almost a criminal waste of people's time, because people come in to this dry material, to this, physical environment that's uninspiring, and they don't want to go. And so there's this, as Lara said, there's this massive industry where 4% of CEOs are seeing an ROI from it. So one of the main differences there is that in addition to all of the amazing faculty we work with and the amazing content and curriculum that we have, is that we're bringing our rabid attention to attendee experience design from TED, from TEDx, from all of that work to understand how can we make people feel special every step of the way? How can we make it so that when people come to our training, they run away and they cannot wait to share it with other people, to put it into action? So the most recent executive program that we ran here in New Zealand, one of our attendees, as soon as he finished the program, he turned around, he had scheduled a meeting with the chief executive of a major holding company here that has 8 companies sitting underneath it. He went to that chief executive. He was like, "You need to send every one of your 8 companies on this program. It is radically different to anything anyone else is doing." We went and had a meeting with him 2 weeks later. He and one of his senior leadership team who had attended the program, we met with him 2 weeks later. He said, "As a result of attending your program, our company," this is a company that works in manufacturing in a very blokey industry, like light industrial manufacturing of jet engines. He said, "Our company is transforming the way that we approach diversity. Up until attending your program, we would have relied on the excuse that there are no women in the pipeline, so we don't need to do anything about diversity. Now we're not accepting that as an excuse. We're actually taking it upon ourselves to influence the pipeline." So they're working at the level of what happens in the company for women, how they recruit to get more women into the company, and how they work with schools to get more women and girls into STEM. So it's a dramatically different experience to what you would expect from traditional corporate training.
I also wanted to mention we're doing this at scale. We have a couple of really big partners right now. One of our largest partners, and keep in mind, we're only 2 years old. One of our largest partners right now is one of the top 5 tech companies in the world. And we're helping them build out their, I can't say it by name on a big group like this that's being recorded, but we're helping them build out their digital university training program. And we are going to be able to start doing it publicly at some point. So, but happy to share more details on some of the clients in the pipeline right now for next year, which are all really, large Fortune 500 brands and smaller companies, but we have a couple of really amazing clients, including Stefan's working with SAP in Germany and others.
So Kayla, in that scenario that you described, the reciprocal will be, you also were lucky enough to get chosen to go to a Boma training session. Aren't we so fortunate? It's a privilege, right? So
100%.
So that being settled, hurry up and send money, guys. Do you see what's going on here? I'm just saying. So we have a few more questions. Would you mind if we took them?
Yes, please.
So let's go in order here. Is there a reason it would need to be delivered by facilitators as opposed to digitally interactive engaged? Sorry, I'm having a little trouble seeing this.
Okay, speakers
Speaking
themselves.
How are these facilitators vetted? A bunch of questions here. And are they approved or trained by the thought leaders themselves?
Yeah, so the main reason to deliver by facilitators is so that we can scale. Even digitally, if we're engaging directly with a faculty member, with a speaker, there will be an issue of scale. People can only do so many things. I'll use Brene Brown as an example. She gets 5 to 25 speaking requests per day. She accepts 12 to 18 per year. So there is always a limit to what people can do and how many people someone can reach. No matter how big your platform, you can have a platform that reaches millions and you will still be limited in terms of how many people you can reach for training. So what this really does is allows that incredible content from those speakers to scale in a way that you simply cannot do going directly to the speaker themselves. How are the facilitators?
Can I add to that quickly that I think we also have these amazing relationships with all these individuals that we're looking to build out our programs. And so which helps greatly in the event that one of our clients actually does want that speaker in addition in person. We are able to, because of our long history and access to these sort of thought leaders, get the access we need. Sorry, Carla.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. How are the facilitators vetted? So our facilitators go through training programs with us. They are trained by the thought leaders themselves. We are also implementing our quality control metrics. So we have, what we're doing is we're centralizing the evaluations so that we can not only ensure quality control of individual facilitators that are delivering programs, but also aggregate evaluation data. So ultimately in 3 years' time, we should be able to say, and this is one of the advantages to our speakers for working with us, we should be able to say, your material was used to train 6,000 people around the world through the Boma Global network, and it got an average net promoter score of 79, and people, 5 out of 5 for, how impactful it was, and 92% of participants said that they changed behavior as a result.
And I also want to point out that because and my partners have scaled global networks, I think this will be almost the 4th one I've scaled. We have access to communities of both country partners and facilitators that we've all worked with before, and we have confidence in at what quality and what level they deliver.
We can take the next question from Dr. Marius Joubert. Forgive me if I pronounced your name incorrectly. So the revenue model for the specialists and their IP translate into the training material. As I said, our aim is to have that be entirely about paying them directly for the training at the time that we develop the curriculum. We are not implementing a clip the ticket model. There are a whole bunch of reasons for that, but both financially as well as logistically, it makes way more sense for us to pay upfront for the material, to work with them for the material. Question from Julian Boxenbaum. Do we only do corporate events, or are there opportunities for non-corporate individuals to participate in the Boma programs? There are absolutely opportunities for non-corporate individuals to participate depending on the program, but our key target market right now is corporate training. We see a world where absolutely, as Lara said, we have a whole bunch of things, our country partners are executing already in a whole bunch of amazing ways, events, experiences, clubs, etc. And in those amazing ways, absolutely non-corporate individuals can participate. We're just really clear about where our brand focus is right now.
So Kayla, there's a Q&A question. do you have an expressed worldview or perspective that can be described as a holistic approach? From Benjamin,
Yes.
I know from Philadelphia. And Julian, nice to see you, and Iva. Just want to put that in there. Go ahead.
Yeah, we absolutely do. We haven't, so we haven't published a, the Boma, the Boma view of the world, but holistic is 100% the way that I would describe what we're doing. One of the things that we all learned, I think, in our engagement with Singularity University, for example, is that having a focus exclusively or almost exclusively on a single vector of change, something like exponential technologies, really ignores all of the ways in which our world is emerging into complexity and in some instances chaos, right? Ignores the way that the whole system works and that all of the vectors of change play off each other. And therefore, having an approach that focuses on a single vector of change is insufficient to support our leaders to develop in the way that they need to lead their organizations successfully at this highly uncertain time.
So can you see the Q&A?
I can. So we've got another one from Jane Katchmer. Sorry, again, if I pronounce your name incorrectly. Could we build a curriculum for high school, college students regarding a film's content, the social dilemma, looking to leverage the solutions? Could we do it? If we were funded to do it today, we could. It's, as I said, it's not an area of focus for us at this time. Our focus area and what we are looking to accomplish with this capital raise is to build out our curriculum for corporate and professional training and build out our global network to deliver that training so that we can get ourselves to that EBITDA positive by 2023.
Going back to that question though, I mean, our holistic approach is ultimately to take all stakeholders along with us. So the idea would be as we grow and are hugely profitable, targeting groups like leadership in youth and leadership in other sectors is definitely a part of our ethos. And I think, again, all of the partners have the ability to pull off large scale events as well. And whenever we've done so, they've been focused on big global challenges, and they've invited in all stakeholders. So it's very much a part of who we are as an organization. So we'll have somebody like the Minister of Agri at our initiatives, as well as corporate leaders, as well as high school students that are all sitting there experiencing the same thing as a learning journey. And that is very much the way we see the world. But for right now, we focused on this one target market.
And we have a comment here from Rick about what we're doing seeming to fall short of actual innovation and the way that we're engaging with Africa and Latin America. That leads you to believe that the ethics program is heavily culturally skewed. Rick, thank you for your comment. We are absolutely clear that each of us brings biases to our work, and we're really we're really intent on making sure that we are constantly challenging and addressing those biases. We have two partners currently in Latin America. We have a country partner in Chile and a country partner in Brazil. Lara, of course, is from South Africa. And absolutely have plans to expand there. We are also, as of now, we're a startup with a tiny team, but everything that you raised is, we welcome that feedback and we welcome those challenges to make sure that we are approaching things as ethically and as holistically as possible.
I'll add, having built out TEDx, we were in 169 countries, and that experience alone has really put front and center the idea that our big global challenges and many of our problems have to have deeply local input that has to roll up globally. And so we're so aware of, as we develop out these products, making sure we're tackling them from a holistic point of view.
We have this question from Elise about how we define country partners. Lara, I think that one's more for you.
So country partners are people that we've worked with before that we know can deliver at a really high level. and that are connected to our network can help us scale, have the sensitivities needed to design an inclusive product that represents the values of their ecosystem in a way that they can take what we're doing and localize it. And again, they're all people we've worked with for the most part before. And so we've seen how they deliver and what they deliver. They've sort of been through 12 years of evaluation with us in different ways. And as we scale, we'll continue to work with people we either know or that we do stringent evaluations on. It is a scale model, so the more countries we can be in, obviously the greater our revenue.
We had a question back in the chat from Dr. Marius Joubert. What does the pricing model for corporate clients look like? That pricing model will vary from country to country. So one of the great things about having this country partner model is that, from our experience with the global network, we've got some amazing things that have to happen at a global level, but at a local level, we know more about what the pricing needs to look like for our market. At a local level, we're the ones who know what our local culture looks like, what our local context looks like. So, we've got situations in India that are dramatically different to what things are like in Germany, that are dramatically different to what things are like in New Zealand. And we have to trust our local partners and we work with them to make sure they're running their organizations both sustainably and also positioning them price-wise so that in their local context, they are consistent with the Boma brand. Are we partners with TEDx? We are not partners with TEDx. We're entirely independent to TED.
Okay, thanks, by the way, for the answers and the engagement from the audience. Super appreciate it. It's rewarding to be able to hear the questions and the answers, and thank you so much for doing that. You want to continue with the presentation, and then we'll keep an eye out for more questions?
Yeah, can we pull up the model? So as we have explained, this is a license model, and we are planning to be in 15 countries by the end of 2021. And then we scale our country partners from there. As we've said, this will be my 4th global network that I've scaled. So we have connections in many of the countries we are thinking of moving into next. We plan to be EBITDA positive by year 3. And so that's each country partner pays us a licensing fee of their top line revenue. And that licensing fee is 5% for our founding partners, 10% for the new country partners that are in the network right now, and we'll go up to 12% next year. And so we get a percentage of their top line revenue, and we use that for the use of funds slide. If you can go to the next slide, please, Ilan. Boma Global uses that revenue for curriculum development, platform development, our experience design work, quality control and evaluation methodology that Kyla has spoken a lot about, our strategy rollout, growing our global network, and then marketing. And then I think we'll stop there because we have a lot of extra material we can share with you, but I think that's sort of the end of the formal presentation.
Great. So what can we talk about, even though you've discussed some of it, what you've used the first round of capital for? You don't have to get detail, but what that is all about. And then a little bit more detail on what you'll use the use of funds on the next round.
Yes, so predominantly the use of funds for this round have been scaling our Boma country partners, our licensees, building out our platform. We have an IP, what we call our Boma Commons, where all the IP that we develop as curriculum lives, as well as our local partners as they localize it for their local culture or language resides. And how we share and learn between country partners is a methodology which we've developed, and some of the use of funds was used for that. We've used it somewhat for marketing. We've had a series of a couple of events that big events that we've used and delivered around the world to grow our brand, as well as we've also developed out COVID, we pivoted and we developed out, we call our Boma Studio, which is a digital platform where our 9 country partners program thought leadership that we use for brand building and developing out some of our thought leadership for the global network. And so, you know, it goes to paying my small team and then developing out the platform, as well as developing out our IP and curriculum to date.
And so post-COVID, have you been able to, and maybe you can just give an example of delivering to a client, you don't have to say who it is, you know, have you been able to deliver successfully on your content in a digital way like this Zoom, for example? And how are you doing it?
Yeah, I'll just give you the framework. Pre-COVID, most of our business was in person. Some of it was being delivered digitally, but what we really did, as soon as COVID hit, we, within 2 weeks, we had pivoted and we had our Boma Studio, as well as a couple of models that we experimented with content that was a 24-hour event that was around COVID and what we could learn from each other. We learned from within a few weeks that the environment was such that everybody was developing digital offerings. And while we couldn't make money from it, we most certainly could partner with local distribution partners like France partnered with the Huffington Post to get through the clutter with our digital products. And then we took all our curriculum and our training, which you've seen in this presentation, and we started developing out our digital offering. And so Kyla can talk about a few examples of, as she's one of the country partners, of where we've actually done that successfully. We have big clients like the one large the 5th largest technology client on the planet, who we are delivering their corporate training program online for right now.
Yeah, I just want to highlight, because I want to make sure it's clear to those on the call. We ran, in terms of the speed of pivot that we did, we ran a worldwide 24-hour summit on COVID-19 with 24 hours of continuous programming, more than 60 speakers from more than 25 countries, including the famous epidemiologist Larry Brilliant. We ran that on the 23rd of March. That's how early and quick we were to the space and how fast we were able to pivot. To Lara's point about our country partner in France is delivering digital training for the learning and development, in-house university for a major corporate client. He's been doing that for a few months now. That's been going really successfully. We've been running here in New Zealand. We've been running, we run both physical and virtual training because we're in a position we can do both. The virtual training, we've been running robust programs. So when I say robust programs, I'm in the middle right now of a program that is 2 weeks long, and it's 2.5 hours a day for 2 weeks. So it's not a simple webinar. It's a major commitment. It's a major investment of time and energy for our participants. This is the 5th time that we've run this virtual program. We get as high survey responses to the virtual ones as we do from the face-to-face ones. So 100% we're demonstrating that we can deliver these successfully.
Okay, that's just somebody asking. Thank you, Kenneth. And you don't have to do this, obviously, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do, but can you name drop, aside from the slide of your prior customers and some of them being current, to what extent can you name drop about current customers? And I see the Bowmer, obviously. Is there anybody else you'd like to share with the group? And if you can't, it's okay.
Yes, I think we can. Stefan, do you want to talk about a couple of the organizations you're working with in Germany?
Yes, I'm happy to do so. So we are currently working with Bayersdorf, which is the parent company to a product called Nivea that you probably all know. We are working with some Mittelstand companies. In Germany, we have a very strong footprint in family-owned businesses that more or less represent the backbone of the German industry. And we're working with a handful of family-owned businesses. And the interesting part is we're working with the families. So we're not only working with the management, but the family, the ownership of these companies pull us in to work with them and actually help work on the mindset of their teams. One other company that I can mention is that we're working with Deutsche Telekom right now. We're working with Henkel. Henkel is also a very large company. So this is just a handful of very large corporate companies that we're currently involved with.
Lara, if you don't mind, let's ask that question so everybody else knows the answer to it. Do you own 100% of the IP of the content co-created with the speaker thought leaders?
We do, yes.
So I think that's also important. Okay, please send along your questions. You guys have each a little ending wrap-up comment that you'd like to share. That would be fun. I think we should have Kayla go first.
Okay. Well, first of all, just a huge thank you to you, Arthur, for facilitating this conversation, and a huge thank you to everyone who has tuned into this call. This is an area that it's hard for me to convey how passionate I feel about this area. If we want to change the world, if we want to address the major challenges that we've got, we cannot do it using the same tools that we have used to create the problems that we currently have. This is a place that gives us an opportunity to have a massive, massive impact. Business is the engine and the lever that shifts the world. And if we do this well, we will be able to shift the world along with them. So thank you for your time and attention. And over to you, Stefan.
So Kayla, before you do that, Stefan, when Kayla enters the room, the vibration changes and all of a sudden you feel really good. I'm just saying, I've experienced this.
Thank you, Arthur.
You're welcome. Stefan?
Well, I can confirm this, and the room is not as exciting when I'm entering, but I think we share that passion, and looking back to my business history, the decision to jointly move forward with what we are doing right now with Boma is probably the most important decision I took in my life, capitalizing everything I learned in the last 30 years in business to really create a difference. Because as Kyla described, we have to start doing this, and education is the point where we have to kick it off. If you look back to the source of executive education, and we go back to Harvard, they invented this. And if you read Milton Friedman's essay in the New York Times in 1970 about the responsibility of a company being only profit, not more, that thinking over decades was never questioned, never. In all the companies and all the leaders we see, created businesses along that. They created incredible wealth, and there were a lot of jobs created. But we're entering a new period, and there's a new time coming in. And look at the next generation. They are asking different questions, and they are expecting as well us leaders, companies to change. And I think that's why we decided to go down that path. And it would be encouraging to have some of you join us on that journey. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Lara?
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And I concur with everything that has been said. The building of Boma is sort of a culmination of everything I've done in both the for-profit world and building large global networks that scale. And when I entered into building what will be almost the fourth large global network, it was something that I had to do because I really believe that the world is at a very challenging point right now. And the only way we get through this is through education and leadership, good education and leadership. And the challenges are immense. And none of these challenges can be solved just at one local level. There have to be multiple inputs, and there has to be a shift predominantly how companies think about what they're doing in the world. And this is most certainly driving as much profit as possible, but doing in a way that it's also good for people and the planet. And you're seeing this being echoed in a lot of different circles right now. And in order for corporations to get there, I was at Davos at the beginning of the year, and a lot of the mantra was around, this sort of new speak on how to be a more inclusive, more ethical and successful company. And yet these CEOs, for the most part, have no idea how to shift. And so we really want to be in the middle of educating them on how to be both profitable and purposeful. We'd like to say intentional, intelligent thinkers to design a better future. And so I'll leave you with that. And I hope you're all going to invest, and looking forward to seeing you in our next board meeting.
Yeah, that was all super awesome. Would you guys mind taking a couple of late questions here?
Absolutely.
Okay, David, if the corporate education space is extremely crowded, do you believe you are in a most profitable part of it? And if so, why?
Yeah, I absolutely believe we are in the most profitable part of it. And the main reason for that is that Boma Global's model is about scaling globally. So in other words, if you're looking strictly at profit margins, the traditional university model is a very attractive model. Scott Galloway from NYU talks about this extensively, about the kind of margins you can get from teaching a class at NYU. That is not the space Boma is playing in. Our space is about scaling globally. And when we look at scaling globally, what we're looking at is Netflix kind of margins, where we're investing heavily to build out the amazing curriculum, to train the facilitators, to deliver the evaluation, to deliver all of the wraparound support that's necessary, the sales materials, the branding, et cetera. But then once we've done that, we can add new country partners without substantive additional cost on our side. And all of that investment gets amortized across all of our country partners. So we believe that the way we've structured the organization is absolutely a highly profitable path to go down.
Super. Ben has a question. It's a great question to wrap up on because it's inspiring. So whoever would like to take it in the Q&A. What does BOMA stand for?
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that question. So in ancient Africa, I'm from South Africa. In ancient Africa, the Boma was an enclosure, a wooden enclosure where the tribe would come together to have their hard conversations and think about how to take action. And so in a complicated world like today, we're playing on the idea that the world needs new, agile, emergent circles to design a better operating system for mankind. And a Boma is a circle. In every culture, there's been a circle that represents some meaningful way that the tribe or people would come together to think differently about what they were doing. And if you've gone on a safari in modern day Africa, you will sit in a Boma, break bread and tell stories, which I did many times as a child growing up.
Super. Thanks so much. That was awesome, guys. So good to see you all again. And please, let's have our paths cross in person soon. I would love that.
Hopefully all our paths can cross in person soon.
Exactly. And once again, the Family Office Insights community has been just super supportive and engaged, and we're so grateful and appreciate it. And as I say in each one of these, thank you, and thank you for spending the only thing you can't make more of, and that's your time. Thank you so much. Till next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.